time that our committee has met since last August, and obviously some things have changed since we last convened. Firstly, being that Tori is back with us again. So we'll go ahead and start with introductions, just so you all are aware. My name is Abby Rim. I'm the Deputy Director of the State Workforce Development Board. So we work out of the Governor's Office and in collaboration with the Department of Labor. And since Tori is still driving, I'll turn it over. Meg, why don't you go ahead and start us off, and we'll just point to the next person that wants to introduce themselves afterwards.
Sure. My name is Meg Hammond. I am the Executive Director at Generator, which is a makerspace in the south end of Burlington. It's about 1,500 square feet, and we have a wood shop, metal shop. We're training grounds, basically. So I'll leave it at that.
Rick, do you want to go ahead?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rick Bugby. I'm the VP of Programs for Associates for Training and Development, and we operate older worker workforce development projects in Vermont. And I can choose someone, Abby. Sarah.
Good morning, everyone. Sarah Kleinman. I'm the Director of 4-H Family and Migrant Programs with UVM Extension. And how about I will choose Marianne.
Hi, everyone. I'm Marianne Sheehan. I work for the Vermont Business Roundtable. I'm involved in the initiation of a program called Vermont Talent Pipeline, which is an employer model for filling the skills gap. And I will choose Becky Capsalis.
Thank you. So good morning, everyone. My name is Becky Capsalis. I'm the Associate Vice President of Talent Acquisition for the UVM Health Network. And I will choose, Joan Goldstein.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Joan Goldstein. I'm Commissioner, Department of Economic Development for the state of Vermont. Sorry, I'll pick Andy.
Hey, thanks. Andy Crossman, I'm Director of Franklin County Industrial Development Corporation, Head of Workforce Development, recently retired as Global Learning and Development Lead for Pfizer. And I'm from Vermont originally, so very involved in getting very involved in workforce development again. And I will choose Nicole. Is she gone?
I haven't yet. Thanks, Andy. My name is Nicole Miller. I'm Executive Director of Vermont After School. We work statewide to increase access to after school and summer programs. And I will pass to Mark.
Good morning. My name is Mark Chibo. I'm a school counselor for the Windham Northeast Supervisory Union based at the Bellows Falls Union High School. I will choose Heather.
Good morning, I'm Heather Warius, and I'm the Work-Based Learning Coordinator, also with the Windham Northeast Supervisory Union. I'm housed at our high school, Bellows Falls Union High School. Melissa, did you go? Oh, you're muted.
Got it. Sorry. Thanks. My full-time day job is with Casella Waste. I'm the Human Resources Director. And my representation for this committee is my role with the Employer Support of the Garden Reserve for the state of Vermont. And I'm the Employer Relations rep for the ESGR in Vermont.
Great. Was there anyone that am I missing anyone? Anyone that didn't introduce themselves?
Hi, I'm Julia Schuster. I'm with the Career and Technical Education team at the Agency of Education, and I'm the Career Pathways Coordinator.
And I'm Michael Harrington, Commissioner for the Vermont Department of Labor. And I'll be easy and pass it to Tori since I can't see everybody.
I'm Tori Biondolillo, Executive Director for the State Workforce Board.
Great. Anyone else that we're missing?
Abby and Victoria, this is Becky. I can't remember, did we extend this invitation to Jerry Bakke, and did I have the ability to do that? Or is it just because, is there only one representative that could be possible for this committee from UVM Health Network?
No, he definitely is able to attend. The committees are fairly informal. I'm not sure if we've discussed it in the past, but we certainly can include him in future communications moving forward.
That would
and
be
you're
great.
welcome
I
to-
just forwarded him this invite, but and I can keep him updated, but I'm sure he would be excited to be connected with everybody.
Okay, great. Yeah, you're welcome to do that in the future. And
Okay.
that's extended to all of you on the call. You're welcome to include folks moving forward. The committees are fairly informal.
Great, thank you.
Just starting off, say to ground us again, again, I know that the last time we met was back in August, but the State Workforce Development Board has been convening fairly regularly, and we're currently working on the development of our strategic plan. And so within that strategic plan, we have parts that are included for each of the committees, which includes your committee, the Career Pathways Committee. And so the materials that we distributed to you all is the direction that the specific committee is going to be going in. So we're looking for feedback for all of you to develop that one pager, and we're going to be approving it in our May meeting with the entire full board. So for today, we are just going to be going over that one pager, trying to get feedback from all of you, and going from there. And then for the actual, let me just share my screen with you all. For the actual strategic plan, for those of you, I know some of you have been engaging with the material, some of you have not, but we have 4 more main categories that we're going to be reviewing. So that includes WIOA, the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, the Workforce System Alignment, workforce supports, workforce education and training, and then relocation, recruitment, and retention, which we have renamed increasing the size and quality of Vermont's workforce. So we have those 4 main overview topics that we're going to be focusing on with the strategic plan that the board has chosen, that those are the areas that they want to be focusing on in the next 1 to 2 years. But then each of the committees, again, has their own section that we're going to be flushing out. So just from that so far, does anyone have any questions about the board strategic plan? No? Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and then we're just going to dive into reviewing the one pager. So let me go ahead. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so this is an example of what the one pager looks like that we are going to be working on. And so obviously, as you can see with the format, we have the situation, then we have the solution, long-term action for the committee, and then we have milestones that we're looking to achieve. So I know in our previous meetings, we've talked about the mission statement of the committee that we're going to be focusing on, but we're really trying to flush it out with granular points that we're going to be trying to hit with this committee. And the direction that we're going. So I'll just run through it, and we'll stop at each section, and I'll get feedback from all of you. But starting off with the situation, Vermont schools offer students access to a quality education and ample training opportunities. However, per year, roughly 50% of our students don't continue on to higher education. Additionally, there's a portion of our population, age 16 or older, that is disengaged from the workforce and needs guidance related to essential services and opportunities. Defined by Act 189 of 2018, career pathways are a combination of rigorous and high-quality educational training and other experiences and services beginning no later than 7th grade, which help align program offerings with skills needed in key Vermont industries. While Vermont's career pathways system structure is outlined, it needs to be further developed. So this is just really calling attention to the current situation regarding career pathways in Vermont. And I think mostly this is just calling attention to the fact that obviously this committee has not been very active since Tori and I have come into our roles. And so really trying to re-energize that. Does anyone have any questions about that particular section? And feel free to just speak out, because again, since I'm sharing my screen, I can't see all of you.
No
The situation
question.
leads with 50% of our students don't continue to higher education, which feels like that's the goal here. Is that how we're outlining the situation?
Yeah, so I think with that statistic, it's tricky because I think we're trying to obviously shift away from the narrative that folks have to go on to higher education. So highlighting that wherever that 50% is going, that's okay, but wanting to continue engaging with them.
Do we want to use words like post-secondary instead of higher ed?
Sure, we can change. We're welcome to rechanging the wording. And again, with these with this one pager, it's really just a jump starter. So if folks feel like this is not an accurate picture of the current situation, we're open to changing things around.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I just think there could be a stronger intro to how we get to our solution. But I'm willing to write some ideas up. I can't think on the spot with words, but I think there should be a little bit of a stronger reasoning.
Yeah, and we'll certainly send this around, Meg, like some of the other committees where you can go through and everyone can feel free to rip this apart with track changes if they'd like to. We just want to give everyone a jumping off point.
Yep.
I wonder too, I'm sure there's a data point out there that not only is it the 50% of our students don't continue on to post-secondary education, but also credentialing or some other type of experience, which I think is probably what Meg is getting at.
Thank you for articulating. I'm not in my office by 8 a.m., so my morning's been rocky.
Yeah.
But that's exactly right. I think because I think it depends on where the solutions go in here, but I do think we need to make a stronger point because a lot of people can immediately stop reading there and saying, well, do they need to?
Yeah, because I think the bigger piece is less about higher ed and more about the fact that we're kind of losing, like these kids are kind of getting lost in the cracks. And that's really the bigger issue. You know, where they end up, as long as it's a successful path through them, we're all agnostic, I think, on what that actually looks like.
Especially if we're aligning with flexible pathways, like not everybody can afford and or will go to the more academic higher education route. But the goal is to train them up to be part of the workforce and be productive part of our civic world, right?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, as long as we're going to get into some of these details, I was just going to say, this starts out with Vermont schools and students who are coming from Vermont schools, but is that all we want to think about here? I mean, are we limited to just students, or could we be talking about people who are adults who, you know, don't have those skills or abilities to attain post-secondary education?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can open that up to more people as we're talking cradle to career. Obviously, that means folks not just in the K through 12 system or in our higher ed institution. So yeah, we could definitely open that up.
I always think when we talk about high school students, we're talking about a graduating class for, you know, the entire state that hovers between 5,000 and 6,000. So it's kind of a small population when you just look at that, but you know, if you consider everybody else in the state, there's the opportunity is very large.
Definitely. Other thoughts? All right, Abby.
To that, it's Melissa Norman. To that end, just to kind of piggyback onto the last comment is, you know, representing, you know, the employer support of the Guard and Reserve. It could be also those folks who are Vermonters who are transitioning maybe from full-time military service back into a civilian job here in the state, or they could be in, you know, training, you know, they can bring some, you know, opportunities to us and hooking them up with training programs that lead to full-time employment within the state, rather than having them, you know, go to a different state. The other thing that I would say too is from an adult learning perspective, I see this all the time in my job at Casella, is there are adults who may have gotten lost someplace at one time, And one of the things that I see, because with our CDL school and our soon to be opening diesel school, we're attracting people who haven't had like really good career opportunities, and we're giving them a skill. They're coming, they're, working for us for a month or so, going through our CDL school, getting a license, and then starting on a career path. And there are a lot of adults of all ages who are looking to, find something that's stable, and being able to identify them through a career pathways program would be ideal for all kinds of businesses.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that's a point well taken from everyone. We can rework the language and wording here. And again, we'll be sending this around. So folks, we encourage you to, write in the margins, make changes about the language. But I think the intent here, I think we can all agree, the intent here is about career pathways on a continuum of someone's lifetime and career, and helping find the connection points at each of those areas. So yeah, I think that's good feedback for us as we just started kind of focusing on the students. Abby, do you want to lay out just kind of broadly what the solution is?
Sure. So as written in statute, the state workforce development is required to have a career pathways committee, and they are charged with the review and approval process of state endorsed career pathways that reflect a shared vision across multiple sectors and agencies. And so our solution here is working with the career pathways committee and the Department of Labor, AOE, and other applicable entities to endorse these career pathways, but also publicize them to both young and mature workers.
And just so everyone's aware, again, the difference between this committee and a lot of our other committees is a lot of our other committees are kind of like think tanks, and that they're giving us ideas, they're providing us their insight from their industry, they're talking, and we're using that to do the workload. This really is a working committee, and that, we have a statutory requirement to actually look at career pathways, approve career pathways, be involved in that process. I think that's a really good opportunity for everyone here and for the board as well to be doing this on a consistent basis. And our hopes here with, some of the milestone and measures put in place is that this committee can continue to do that work, recommend changes to the process, help so that we can actually kind of make this ongoing and, evergreen as we help kind of try to develop our workforce. So before I move on to kind of what our milestones are, I just want to note that I would caution everyone to not get stressed out about the dates. They're placeholders. We can get into the details of the dates. We just wanted to kind of show, generally a timeline here. What in the final document, obviously we'll have final dates, but I think just to focus on kind of the key like milestones that the committee, the body of work the committee actually will be doing is kind of more of our focus here. So, and for those listening, if you are not looking at the screen, CPC is just Career Pathways Committee, if you're not actually looking at the screen. So we have by August of 2023, the CPC will revisit and review the process by which AOE has previously developed existing career pathways. This will include working sessions to modify and update the approval process. So prior to Abby and I taking over the board, the Career Pathways Committee has met. There's a process in place for establishing career pathways. We can send it around to everyone how it looks, but essentially by August, we want to get everyone on the same page of what process we're using to actually certify and identify career pathways, make sure it still reflects the realities of today, reflects the realities of employment today, et cetera, et cetera. By December, the full board will vote to approve whatever updates we have made. So we'll have a board meeting in December of 2023, and unless they have strong objections, we'll bring it in front of the full board to vote to approve our official, credentialing career pathways process. So then in January, we will be meeting quarterly. So no less than 3 times, basically to review the in-demand careers and develop or change existing career pathways that are already agreed upon. And then in June, we'll really start the work of promotion. So the second, there's 2 pieces of this, and I think the first iteration of this committee did a great job at the career pathways approval process, but a career pathway doesn't really mean anything if it's in a vacuum. And so the work of this committee would be, the promotion, stakeholder outreach, whether that's schools, whether that's in our workforce centers, through our one-stop operator, et cetera, making sure that, this is out there, transparent, open to the public, folks understand kind of what their career pathway is. And so, and then kind of our final is by January 26th, we'll introduce and implement changes to the marketing campaign as needed. So the way that this committee works is it's quarterly. There's a rinse and repeat type of process. We update, our procedures if we need updating, and we, update things that need to be marketed, how that works as the time goes on. So I'll pause there for questions or comments from folks. Nothing. I mean, I think
Abby, just a question. Will there be like working teams? Like, it's hard for a large group to kind of accomplish tasks. So how would that be executed?
Yeah, so I think we'll have some working sessions, smaller working sessions with folks. A lot of the work that we do is, we email you asking for feedback or incorporating feedback. It actually will probably be very similar to, in some respects, to the strategic plan process. Like, for example, not with this committee, but we have working groups that are working on specific sections of our strategic plan. It'll be similar like that, where if there's, career pathways for manufacturing, for example, or career pathways for healthcare, we'll pull in some of the key members from, this board with some of this committee with some of the folks on the healthcare committee, and may have a smaller working group on certain smaller career pathways. I think this body as a whole, though, will look at the process for evaluation, and that I think is feasible for sure.
All right, thanks, Tori.
But in terms of this process, I want to make clear to everyone, this is just our jumping off point, and that what we're looking from each of you is just getting back to us with changes or comments. Even if you're like, even if it's a comment as, I don't have enough time to review this, so just know I do not have a comment, so that we can incorporate that feedback, because we want to just keep kind of plugging away at this till it gets at something that's a little bit more refined. But I think in general, I guess, if there's no comments on this specifically, we can open it up to any other thoughts about the committee, its focus, its role, what you're hoping to get out of this.
So I have a question about, the Agency of Education. Are they going to be addressing adult education career pathways as well? Or is there? Okay.
Yes. And I think,
what point does that end? Because I just don't know that answer. Like, what do they address?
Like, what do you mean by, like, what do you mean? When does it end?
The Agency of Education is up to, like, higher ed?
Well, so it's interesting because it's like, technically speaking, the funding of our education system is obviously very complicated, and I'm not an expert, but they obviously are the oversight and primary management of the K through 12 system, but through WIOA, they manage the adult education and literacy programming. And so how they do that is they put out a competitive bid for local entities to administer those services, and they oversee the administration of those services. So adult, I think, is just anyone who's an adult who wants to participate in those services. There's obviously a nexus between our higher ed institutions, but it's almost like 2 parallel tracks. I think the idea that we're all working towards is better coordination between the 3 kind of things, but that's a little out of the scope of this committee in some respects, but in others, I think, you know, figuring out the right pathway for someone and the right communications channels is obviously very important in that regard.
I believe
also
the
just wanna-
services. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I also just wanted to add, in practice, the like delivery of those career pathways can really overlap between the K-12 system and adult. So for like aviation in Burlington, the adult ed programming is part of like the individual that teaches that is the same individual that teaches those aviation classes for younger students. So especially in such a small state as Vermont, it's helpful to look at both of those things at the same time because there's just personnel wise, just a lot of overlap.
Yeah, definitely. And we don't want to be reinventing the wheel, creating new programs. We don't have to, if we can, you know, just resource the existing programs better. Other thoughts, questions?
I think this is Mary Ann. I just want to say we have some work to do. Like, you know, when I think about it, there's youth technical center programs that exist all over our state that are preparing people for the construction industry, but there's really not a lot of adult technical education that does that. And then once you get some of the credentials that are taught at this, you know, technical center level, they're not recognized by higher ed with any kind of credit or work experience yet. So building these pathways is pretty important for the people who are in it. So I just think about, like, there's a lot of work to be done. I'm not sure how to get it there, but
Yeah, there certainly is. I think there's a very clear nexus between this committee and the Training and Credentialing Committee, which is another working committee, and that they establish credentials of value. That has been inactive for a very long time. And I think, you know, if we can have these work in tandem, that'll be huge for the folks that are going through these programs as well. So yes, there is a lot of work to be done, Mary. But it's important.
Mm-hmm. Tori, is there a way to identify that collaboration between those two committees to really kind of make sure that we make the time and space and
yes.
Yeah.
Yep, we can definitely try to work, we can work something in there that it identifies specifically in their plan as well as ours about the collaboration between the two.
Yeah, and I'm not an expert in this, but I think, and Mary Ann, you're probably talking about this a little bit, but you know, there's this challenge with the CTEs. There's a stigma that we were talking about, working to promote what the new manufacturing world is, right? And there's also the fact that the money follows the student, and there's like a political challenge there. And there's the schools don't want to promote the CTEs. And then there's like a 50-minute drive for some students to get to the CTEs. And so also, this is where I'm not an expert, and Veronica couldn't make it today, but there's not the certificate part. There's not like a direct relationship from there. There's not a launching off point to get into the jobs, I think.
From from the CTEs, actually now all of them are required to have some sort of a credential attainment. And I think Julia could probably talk about that better. But
do those connect back to higher ed then as well?
They should.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say that one thing, yeah, there's a lot of different kind of piecemeal options. And I think that that's, so there are the credentials that are required across the board, but there's like, sometimes those are recognized in different institutions. Like we're like working on articulation agreements, like in and out of Vermont, which is like a whole nother layer. But I think it is a challenge when those career pathways aren't like written out, super defined, because then that makes it harder for employers to understand, makes it harder for individuals to even go through that pathway.
Yeah. And then one other comment, I don't know where, and not that Generator needs to sit anywhere, but like when you look at the lead partners, for example, I'm trying to figure out, there are more maker spaces popping up, and this is not just for Vermont, but this is happening everywhere. And where do we sit? We're not necessarily a CTE because we're not a high school, you know, and just thinking about there's, you know, we're building these out into high schools as well. So I just want other people to know that we've received federal funding to build maker spaces in schools. And so it's hoping to catch the students that are not deciding to go to a CTE. That's not like they haven't chosen their exact path in a CTE, but still to get spun up with maker education, which is rapid prototyping, 3D printing, laser cutting. It all goes back to the software and knowing how to use those technical skills. So that's going to happen like inside of at least 7 high schools or secondary schools this coming year. And then we're hoping to have more funding. So I don't know what I mean, the makerspace thing, I don't know where that sits as a lead partner, but I do.
I mean, I think maker spaces around the state should be, especially as we're talking about the adult ed piece, and incorporating some folks who might not be in the K-12 system. I mean, we can add them as a lead partner. And again, all of this is a jumping off point. So if there's other lead partners folks see and want to add to our list, please send us an email and we'll add them. You know, we wanted to just kind of lay out the basics to start there. But yes, I agree with you, especially as there are more around the state.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, if there are no other thoughts or feedback, I'll just lay out the process over the next month or so. So we will be meeting again to discuss this, maybe once again, maybe twice, one time to vote to approve at least. But in the meantime, Abby and I will just keep your eyes peeled for us. I know some of you are in multiple committees or in multiple are on the full board. Abby and I will send around this document. We will go through and make some of the changes that were spoken about today and send you all a revised version. From that version, we'll give you a date, like a deadline, just so that you can get us back some edits, your feedback. It doesn't have to be in depth, even if it's just an email. We will want to get your feedback. If anyone would like to meet, we always are open to meet one-on-one with individuals. And based on that feedback, we'll get another meeting on the books to get this squared away. Our goal is really to start getting the work going this summer. So I know we're sprinting through a lot of this, but please feel free to give us as much feedback as possible. We want to make this document as successful and as good as possible.
I'd just like to congratulate the two of you. You guys are doing a wonderful job moving things forward.
Thank you. We appreciate that. So if there is nothing else, I'm more than happy to end a meeting early, but I am also more than happy to sit here and talk to anyone for 22 minutes. All good? All right. Thank you all so much.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.